Welcome to a podcast episode of the Academy for Football Culture. Today we will be discussing the match between Belgium and New Zealand. My name is Benjamin Verhoeven. I'm a teaching assistant in the Theatre, Film and Literary Studies at the University of Antwerp within the Linguistics and Literature program, and with me today is Professor Kurt Vanhoutte. Welcome, Kurt.
Thank you, Benjamin. Glad to be here.
I would like to begin with that ominous, almost mysterious and powerful opening sound fragment that you brought along. Our listeners are probably wondering, what did we just hear?
Yes, so what we have heard is the Haka, the ceremonial dance of the Māori, the original inhabitants of New Zealand, a very powerful ritual.
A ritual I believe many people might know from all sorts of viral videos. New Zealand is pretty well known for it. But will we also see the famous Haka on the sports field of the Belgium-New Zealand match on Saturday?
Well, indeed, that's the central question of this podcast. Will we see the Haka on Saturday, that impressive Māori performance? Well, we do not know for certain. It's a ceremony, a performance, a ritual that's mainly associated with rugby and to some extent American football. So it's not entirely certain that we will see it on Saturday.
Why might we not see it? Is FIFA opposed to it? Did they forbid it, or what is at play?
I don't know, forbidden may be too strong a word, but still, the first reason, I think, is that the Haka is primarily associated with rugby and with a certain degree of violence. FIFA is not particularly keen on that image, especially given the concerns surrounding football-related disturbances in recent years. Also, FIFA's protocols are also quite strict, so there's little enthusiasm for ceremonies before matches that take up too much time. These are reasons, I think, that we may not see it, unfortunately.
Well, the reasons sound like quite formal and politically correct reasons not to do it, but I have an inkling that there might be other factors at play behind the scenes, don't you?
Yeah, well, that's certainly a possibility, because the Haka is not merely a well-known sporting ritual, it's also a highly charged ideological, political instrument. One could call it if not the symbol of Māori national pride.
Could you tell us more about that? Because how does this still function within the New Zealand society today? Is it mainly performed in, I don't know, mainly traditional settings or also elsewhere?
Well, it's performed virtually everywhere. It occupies a central place in Māori society and culture. Children, for an example, learn the Haka at school from a very young age. We even saw it recently appear in a rather unexpected place, well, at least for us Belgians, in the New Zealand Parliament.
Oh, what happened there?
Well, it happened in 2024. New Zealand Parliament was debating a proposed law known as the Treaty Principles Bill. This is a highly sensitive issue for the Māori because it concerns a treaty from 1840 that established peace between the British colonizers and the Māori. The proposal sought to reinterpret that treaty, so the new proposal in 2024, and many Māori viewed this as an attack on their rights. So when the young politician Hana Rawiti Maipi Clark was given the floor, she stood up, she dramatically tore up a copy of the bill and began performing the Haka. She launched into a Haka, and members of her party immediately joined in, followed by the people who supported her in the public gallery. And together they performed the Haka right there in Parliament.
So it's clearly not merely a performative thing, but also functional and in fact very political. It's striking how deeply rooted the Haka is in that culture. But what is the Haka actually about? I know it has a text that is being said out loud or sung. I don't know how to call it, but what does it mean?
To answer this question, we have to return to the mythological origins of the Haka, because its roots run very deep within Māori culture. If you look at the text itself, we find lines such as, and I quote, "Kamate, kamate, I die, kaora, kaora, I live. This is the hairy man who made the sun shine. One step upward, another step upward, and another. There shines the sun." End of quote. So you can hear that it invokes the sun and the world of the gods. More specifically, it concerns the birth of a son, born of the sun and the summer. So this solar child occupies a central place within the Haka. There's, by the way, also a beautiful detail associated with this mythology. It is said that one can observe the birth of this solar child in the shimmering heat waves above the earth on a hot summer day. So those vibrations are said to embody the essence of the Haka itself. Well, I find that very beautiful.
Well, in that sense, the New Zealand match couldn't hardly be better timed in Belgium, given the fact that we're experiencing a heat wave right now. So the dance of the Maori god is all around us, I believe. But returning to football, how did the Haka find its way to modern sports then?
Well, the mythological tradition underwent a number of transformations. It was already deeply embedded within Maori cultural identity, but it became even more politically charged during the 19th century, when the British imposed their laws on the Maori population. And at that moment, the Haka developed into a national symbol of resistance and cultural preservation. And in many ways, you could say that it remains like this today. It remains to have this function of resistance and preservation.
Yeah, that spirit of resistance was also very prevalent in your story about New Zealand Parliament.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Resistance, affirmation of identity, and the invocation of collective strength. That's also why it is used in sports. The New Zealand national teams, the All Blacks in rugby and the All Whites in football, use the Haka to strengthen collective identity.
Does that mean there's still a slight chance that we might see the Haka on Saturday?
Well, I certainly think there's a possibility, and I do hope we see it. But it may also be performed out of sight, as it were. For example, in the dressing room. It's well known that the New Zealand football teams sometimes perform the Haka privately before matches in order to strengthen solidarity and summon collective strength before stepping onto the field.
A strong sense of communal belonging is certainly something sport can generate. In Belgium, we know that very well. I, for a fact, I also have the sense that the Belgian identity is very prevalent during each World Cup series. So it goes hand in hand with major football tournaments.
Exactly. And that's also why the Haka is interesting, not only because it is unique, but also because it makes visible what happens in one form or another during almost every football match of every national team.
Well, that makes me curious, because how do you look at this from a theater and performance study standpoint as a professor?
Well, I would describe this ritual as a rite of passage, rite de passage. Anthropologists developed this concept in the 20th century, the mid-20th century. A rite of passage consists of 3 phases. First, separation. That means that one leaves ordinary life behind.
Me, for example, as a supporter, I put on my team scarf and I leave my home.
You put on your scarf, your colors, maybe you even paint your face in the colors of your national football club. And second comes the liminal phase. Liminal comes from the Latin limen, meaning threshold. This is a threshold experience, a liminal experience. The anthropologist Victor Turner described it as being betwixt and between. What he meant was that ordinary rules now no longer apply. They seem temporarily suspended.
Well, I do get that impression when I enter the stadium and become part of the crowd. I'm not my ordinary self anymore, but I become part of something larger.
Exactly. You as an individual, you become part of a collective body. Supporters together chant. They share the same emotions. They experience joy, sorrow, anger, excitement collectively. Even symbolic violence belongs to this phase. But then finally, third phase, reintegration. People return to their daily lives.
Yeah, I return home. My supporter's scarf is hung back on the hook, and the next day I return to my ordinary life as a dutiful assistant at the college campus.
Yeah, right. If all goes well. Because sometimes the passage does not achieve closure. So when the third phase is weak, the energy generated during the liminal phase spills over into violence outside the stadium. So there's this open end to the ritual. It doesn't close. And then we see riots, vandalism, hooliganism.
Is that where the logic of theater also comes in? That we get the sense that a performance must begin, but it must also end? The curtain has to eventually drop at some point?
Precisely. In the end, it's also a game, an important game, mind you, but still a game. Theater follows the same three-phase structure. So does a wedding, many other social rituals. You dress up, you put on a wedding gown, the ceremony of the rings, and then you go back to daily life as a married couple. The essence is transformation. When you undergo a rite of passage, you emerge changed. The same goes for a theater performance. You dress up, you leave your house, you enter the theater, you believe the fiction on stage, more or less, and then you go back home again, transformed.
Yeah, that's a feeling I recognize. And also the power of this collective ritual appears in many areas of society. I can see that. So it's not only in this pre-modern context that we associate with the Haka.
And that's what makes it fascinating. Rituals with ancient mythological origins continue to appear also today in modern society, not only in sport, but also in commercial contexts.
Yeah, it's not a contradiction.
No, Turner, the anthropologist, even coined a term for this, liminoid. Unlike traditional liminal rituals, liminoid rituals survive in modern society and are often used for entertainment and commercial purposes. Advertising is a good example.
Could you illustrate that?
Well, actually, at the beginning of this podcast, we heard a haka performed on a rugby field, yes, but it was used to advertise sportswear and athletic shoes.
Really? And is that an exceptional case, or are there other examples you think of? Because you also brought along another final fragment to conclude this episode.
Yes, I did, Benjamin. And it's my favorite example. So once again, it's an advertisement using the haka. The audience listening to this podcast cannot see it, but in the advertisement clip, while the Māori perform the haka on the field, they are facing a group of Scots wearing kilts.
It
so
was
the other party.
Yeah, it was a whiskey advertisement.
Yeah, it was a whiskey
Yeah.
advertisement. So the haka is meant to intimidate and project strength and identity. But when it ends, in this case, the Scots respond collectively by lifting their kilts to display their... And the Maori have no answer to that.
It certainly sparks the imagination. Let us hope that the Red Devils find another solution on Saturday. Thank you for joining us today, Kurt Vanhoutte. I hope our listeners enjoyed the match and enjoyed this podcast. We will leave you with this final audio fragment. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Benjamin. Bye.
Universiteit Antwerpen. Bepaal mee de toekomst.